In 2020, the United Nations reported that an estimated 2.37 billion people did not have access to adequate food. In the same year, an estimated 3 billion metric tons of food was wasted. If an average person eats about a ton of food annually, then it is clear that we have more than enough food for everyone. Food insecurity is still an issue that the world is facing today. UN defines a person who is food insecure as someone who lacks regular access to enough safe and nutritious food for normal growth and development to live an active and healthy life. But what defines access, and why do we still face this issue? Capitalism has resulted in food being viewed as a commodity for trade rather than an essential human need. Food insecurity is no longer a problem of supply and demand, but rather a problem of production and distribution. Food insecurity today is more of a socio-economic issue in this sense. This is Group 2 from Cohort SC06. In this report, we aim to assist in solving the problem of food insecurity using a social science perspective. The report consists of mathematical models that is able to accurately predict the severity of food insecurity faced by a country and to surface out potential socio-economic variables that affect these countries. In this video, we will explain the methodologies used and the analysis of our results. To create this model, an understanding of socio-economic backgrounds is required. We identified two different personas from two extreme living conditions. This is Andrew from Singapore. He is a cybersecurity engineer who has a Bachelor's of Engineering, and this is Diallo. He is a sustenance agricultural farmer who has a high school diploma. The difference in living standards can be seen as such. Andrew has difficulties deciding what to eat for dinner, while Diallo struggles to even bring food to the table due to lack of access. This shows us a difference in priorities and goals. Access seems to be defined by a person's socio-political background. Hence, this begs the question, how might we predict the severity of food insecurity in a country, and how can this information be of use to aid in solving food insecurity? The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals Goal 2 aims to end world hunger, achieve food security, and promote sustainable agriculture. We have chosen to develop a model to meet this SDG 2 goal by surfacing out potential socio-economic indicators and predicting countries' severity of food insecurity. Our dataset consists of 115 countries with various sources to include 18 different predictor variables based on a socio-economic perspective. The response variable chosen was the Global Hunger Index, or GHI. GHI was chosen as it captures the seriousness of hunger by using 4 dimensions, namely undernourishment, child stunting, child wasting, and child mortality rate. These indicators reflects the nutritional status within a particular population and minimizes the effects of random measurement errors. The dataset was cleaned by removing countries with missing entries in any particular columns, thus ensuring that all countries in the dataset have available data and no prediction was made to fill these empty data before predicting the model. The chosen variables are Global Hunger Index, mean years of schooling, adjusted net national income per capita, total value of imports, gross domestic product, total value of imports per GDP, ethnic fractionalization, cultural fractionalization, total road length in kilometers, World Risk Index, life expectancy, and total population. The report has included 8 variables related to the composition of religion in a country. Religion is used solely based on our social science research and understanding of current socio-economics problem. Through this research, the effect of religion may surface possible issues faced in the world today. This may include structural racial or religious discrimination. The team rules this as a possibility. As such, these propositions can be an interesting mathematical trend rather than a causation representation. For features and target preparation, the feature will be cleaned. The features are plotted first against GHI to observe a relationship. We observed that the adjusted net national income per capita shows an inverse relationship. The features are then tested for correlations with one another using a pair plot. This minimizes errors in multicollinearity and ensures that the features chosen are independent of one another. The threshold chosen for R² is 0.8, above which 2 predictor variables will be considered linearly dependent. Next, the features will be plotted against the response variable, GHI, to obtain an R² value using a Pearson plot. The R² value is ordered decreasingly, with the predictor variable having the highest correlation to the response variable being the first in the order. A forward stepwise approach was chosen to build the model. The predictor variable will be added into the model incrementally based on the R² ordering. A linear regression model is generated at each increment, and the R² value is calculated for this specific model. If adding the next predictor variable causes the R² value to decrease or remain unchanged compared to the previous iteration, the previous model will be implemented as the final model. To evaluate our model, it is validated using the validation set for its accuracy for predicted GHI. The allowable tolerance of the predicted GHI will be within the range of -2 to +5 of the actual GHI. These bounds were used as the model overestimates the actual GHI by a defined acceptable amount. In this case, the model would prefer to overestimate the severity of the country's GHI rather than to underestimate and risk categorizing them at a lower risk category. The model will be tested on two accuracies. Firstly, the accuracy of it predicting the GHI value, and secondly, the accuracy in categorizing the countries in the correct GHI categories, ranging from category 0 to category 4. It is more critical for the model to correctly categorize countries into the correct GHI categories rather than the GHI values. GHI categories are generally used instead of the GHI value to highlight countries facing severe food insecurity. The model aims to predict the GHI categories of countries, including those not on the GHI list. As such, the model is tested against real-world data for countries not on the GHI list. When tested against Singapore, Burundi, and Mozambique, the prediction model has accurately categorized these countries in their GHI categories. Our prediction model is accurate with R-squared score of 0.7146 for the test set when predicting GHI values and R-squared of 0.7143 for the test set when predicting GHI categories. To summarize, the risk of facing food insecurity is greatly determined by one's socio-economic status. Money is power and power is access, access in this case being food. One's access, however, is defined by who they are and where they come from. Unfortunately, socio-economic problems such as structural and religious racism still plagues the world today, which further worsens this social injustice. This model aims to surface the predictor variables that strongly correlates with the GHI indicator. The model has highlighted a few possible variables, namely the inverse adjusted net national income per capita, life expectancy, mean years of schooling, and ethnic fractionalization. This information may be of use to direct research, humanitarian and world efforts to countries with a more severe state of food insecurity. The team hopes that this report can serve as a meaningful model to predict a country's degree of food insecurity and thus change the notion that it is unsolvable. The team looks forward to rejecting current food industrial practices and policies on an individual and institutional scale to bring the world closer to solving world hunger. This particular page, you'll actually see the Pearson plot. If you mouse over each of the data set, this is the raw data against the GHI. You can actually look at the actual value itself as well as the country. In addition, we have created a feature whereby if you were to double click on any of these legends, you will actually be able to see the actual raw data and just for that variable, so you can still scroll over and look at it. So like so. In addition, we also created a new feature whereby you can actually create and train your own model. So you can choose your variable that you want, the test and train ratio, as well as the seed, the random seed that you want to use. So let's say we want to do for predict Singapore, and we have data for Singapore for mean years of schooling, inverse adjusted net national income, the life expectancy, as well as the ethnic fractionalization. So let's say we want to train our model to be 70-30, and then a seed of 100, and we click submit. So in case submit, it goes to a new page, and in this page itself, it will have the all the plots of your different variables with the predicted against the actual, so you can see how accurate your model is. So this is like so. Over here, you can, so let's say just now we say we want to predict Singapore, because Singapore is not in the GHI list. So let's say we use Singapore, the mean years of schooling is 11.3 for Singapore, the inverse is this value, the ethnic fractionalization is 0.3857, and the life expectancy is 83.75. So once you're keyed in, you click predict, and as you can see, the predicted GHI for Singapore is actually negative, which is lower than the possible GHI, and that's why Singapore is in the low risk region for food insecurity. So this is the R-squared value that the backend has calculated for your model, and these are the predictors that you've used. So like if you want to use for like India as well, you can change it. Let's say they have 10, let's say it's about this, so you can just kind of play around with this, and yeah, you'll be able to get the different GHI value. Yep, that's about it.